get the little guy who's a little too far away. He's very low in the water. We're going up right beside him. Taylor's gonna grab it.
All the chicks that were being rescued were floating in the water, and they were waterlogged. They were freezing cold. Some of them were like near drowning at that point when they were pulled out of the water, and it didn't take them very long. I mean, it could just be less than 5 minutes that a chick gets to that state because they were just so wet.
He was spitting water.
You know, they're used to being on sand and being able to take little baths here and there on the shoreline, but they were just contaminated in their own feces because being stuck on this barge.
We just had a whole lot of hand warmers because we were out on the water. There was no quick way to get them, you know, a heating pad or something like that. We essentially just created these little like terns wrapped in towels with little hand warmers put underneath their wings and like, you know, put all around them, and we monitored them really closely because they were so out of it. So they would start to perk up pretty quickly once their body temperature came up. So we were able to kind of, you know, graduate them to little kennels where we were keeping them, you know, covered.
I also noticed that the parents were trying to feed the chicks in the water, which ultimately became an upper hand and an advantage for us in caring for all the chicks that came in. The initial several got lots of heavy critical care, but we found that they were getting hot, you know, in the incubators because they were healthy enough. I mean, within 10 days, we had 300 chicks in care. Luckily for the Los Angeles Center at that time, we were fairly slow in terms of other admits. We did have babies, we did have other birds in care, pelicans always, gulls. The terns were everywhere, like every enclosure. We were using every single room. And then just seeking help from outside resources as well, who were knowledgeable in seabird care, and then some who weren't. We just needed people to come in and do dishes or cut fish for us. Everybody just clicked, and everybody was there for the same mission, and everybody was just driven to do what needed to be done. It's not like we got reimbursed for any of this. It's not like there was a responsible party. Like it was, I think we all felt it was our responsibility to take care of it no matter what. We didn't have a ton of injuries, but what we did discover splinters in their little feet by all of these little fish bones. Their natural habitat is sand, so if the fish is left in the sand, it often degrades, and then you have all the little fish bones, and that tends to sink deeper into the sand. Well, on this concrete barge, the fish spines and the fish bones were everywhere. We were looking at some minor injuries in terms of those, you know, minor infections in their feet. So providing them with that correct substrate, no matter what type of enclosure they were in, was super important for us. Well, and one of the things too is terns habituate really easily, and the last thing that you want to do is habituate a baby tern, because then there's no way that bird's going to be able to display its correct behaviors and be accepted back into the colony. So, you know, when you have 1 or 2 baby terns, it's really important to disguise ourselves. We play tern sounds, but with 300 terns, it's like we were in their colony. They were still able to maintain their wildness and their fear of humans in a way, which also benefited us because we didn't have to go through those extra lengths to avoid that habituation too. Most important thing for them was just food. And these birds don't eat right off the bat on their own. Most of them were coming in, they were still being fed by parents, so we were assist feeding them every hour. And by the time you're done with one assist feed with 300 chicks, it's time for the next assist feed, because as babies, they need to be fed constantly. And then we were lucky once we started moving them outside to the outdoor enclosures, they started to eat on their own. So it's just keeping up with making sure their dishes were full. I mean, people were working till 10, 11 o'clock at night some of the nights.
That's when we really realized, okay, this isn't stopping. We're realizing that there's a lot more chicks on the barge than we could estimate, because it was really hard to get an idea of how, because of the rocks and the visibility up there, was really hard to see how many chicks were actually on the barge. So we were trying to estimate with the number of adults that we were seeing. It really became clear, number one, that we couldn't be continuing with that sort of volume of chicks coming into care. The center was already getting overwhelmed.